So today's class is about antipsychotic drugs. But before we exactly go into antipsychotic drugs, because psychosis is just one portion of mental illness, there are a wide umbrella of mental illnesses, and this one is just one part or portion of it. So, what happens? What is this antipsychotic drugs? Let us just go through. So first, the overview. Psychotropic drugs means the drugs having primary effects on the mental processes. Okay, how the mind thinks, what the mind wants, what are its disabilities, what are its problems. So mental processes. On the entire mental processes, the drug acts and are used for the treatment of psychiatric disorders. So, introduction of chlorpromazine in 1952 has transformed the lives of schizophrenics. Schizophrenia is a type of mental illness. It's actually called as a split personality. The individual will be having two personalities in their mind and they keep switching from one to another, so causing confusion to the people around and suffering internally. So this kind of schizophrenic, they were just benefited by chlorpromazine. It's an antipsychotic introduced in 1952. And later on in 57 to 58, a lot of drugs they are called as a tricyclic and monoamino oxidase inhibitors. These were the antidepressants. In 1957-58, they were introduced. Many drugs in the different fields of psychiatry have been introduced since 1980. Okay. So all the psychiatric disorders, whatever we see, have been categorized broadly into psychosis and neurosis groups. Psychosis groups, they further contain a lot of subtypes. They are acute and chronic organic brain syndromes. They are called as cognitive disorders. And then functional disorders. Functional disorders include the problem in the functioning of the individual. They include schizophrenia, which I just now said, and paranoid states. Mood affective disorder. Mood affective disorder includes mania and depression. So neurosis. Neurosis includes anxiety, phobic states, obsessive compulsive disorder, reactive depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, and hysteria. So all these introduction that I am trying to give is just to sensitize how vast the psychiatric illnesses subject is, and we are dealing with only one portion of the mental illness, that is the psychosis. Okay, Alice madam will take you to another few mental illnesses in the part 2 of the engagement. So this is the part 1. Now psychosis, what exactly it is? It's a severe psychiatric illness with serious distortion of thought. How the person thinks, suddenly he may think he is a lion. Okay, he thinks that he is a lion and then he shouts on other people. So all this is disturbances of the thought, behavior, capacity to recognize the reality. He thinks he is the king, so he says all of the others are subordinates. So some this kind of a behavior. I hope the slides and myself, my voice is audible to and visible to all of you.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So the thought processes go like this. Okay, so that is an abnormality, that is a mental illness, and it disturbs himself and the people around. The patient is unable to meet the ordinary demands of life. Ordinary demands like go get do some work and get earn some money and take care of your family. So those kind of things he won't be able to do. He or she won't be able to do. So that's a problem. So that is this psychiatric disorder. That is this psychosis. Okay. Then comes acute and chronic organic brain syndromes, cognitive disorders such as delirium and dementia with psychotic features. Some toxic or pathological basis. So we don't know what toxic have caused them. Prominent features are confusion. So first of all, let me tell you what is delirium and dementia. Delirium is a state of confusion. Okay, it characterized by hallucinations, illusions, and all those things. That is delirium. And dementia is memory loss and associated movement disorders in age group, generally in the advanced age group. That is dementia. So delirium and dementia are part of this acute and chronic organic brain syndrome. When you say organic, that means the structural abnormality has happened in the brain. When you say functional, there is no structural abnormality, only functional abnormality is there. So when the structure, there is happened some scarring, some calcification in the brain in some regions, that is the organic brain syndrome. That causes this delirium or dementia, and which is psychotic features. Psychotic, when you say the thought process has gone wrong. Prominent features of the confusion. So there will be confusion when all these things have happened in the brain. There will be confusion, there will be disorientation, defective memory, and disorganized thought and behavior. Functional disorders. No underlying cause can be defined. So in the functional disorder, there is no structural damage to the brain or anything. The underlying cause cannot be identified. Memory and orientation are mostly retained. So in such functional disorders, memory and orientation are retained, but emotion, thought, reasoning, and behavior, they are seriously altered. In any case, if you notice from the beginning, all subtypes of psychosis, the thought has to be disturbed, and then the following behavior will be abnormal. Now, another a few disorders which are all psychosis only. Schizophrenia. This is a split personality, as I told you, people. So I have explained that. Paranoid states. Paranoid states is a marked persecutory or other kind of fixed delusions. Delusion is false firm belief. He thinks that his neighbor is going to poke him with a knife. So there is no reason or rationale for his false firm belief. So this is his persecutory. Persecutory means someone is causing damage to him. Okay, his neighbor is poking him, or his maternal uncle is going to poke him with a knife. So these kind of fixed firm belief, if they are there, they are paranoid states. Then there will be loss of insight. Loss of insight in the sense why they are poking. If you ask them, why do you think that this person is going to poke you, they don't tell a reason which is valid, which is which is acceptable. Huh? So that problem is paranoid states. Mood affective disorders. The primary symptom is change in the mood. It may manifest as mania, depression, or cyclic episodes between the two. Mania means elation or irritable mood. Irritable means if you just talk to the person, he gets immediately violent. Okay, so and he starts picking up fights, or he starts quarreling, or he starts beating his surrounding people. So that is irritable mood. So elation means he elevates himself from whatever he is there, from that place to elevates himself to a king or a prime minister or something like that. So elation, irritable mood, reduced sleep, hyperactivity, uncontrollable thought and speech may be associated with reckless or violent behavior. Violently, he may go up and down, and then he go and beat injuries to by beating himself with surroundings and all those things. Depression is sadness. So all these things are considered as mood disorder: mania, depression, and bipolar disorder. And this mood disorder also is a part of psychosis only. So depression, sadness, loss of interest and pleasure, worthlessness, guilt, physical and mental slowing, melancholy, and self-destructive ideation. So all these problems amount in a person to be called as depressive. Then is bipolar disorder. A common form of a mood disorder is cyclical alteration. So sometimes he will be in mania, and followed by few weeks, then he will be in the form of depressive phases. So this disorder may also be unipolar with waxing and waning. That means unipolar means now to this time also mania, next time also mania, next time also mania. It can happen like that also. Or it can happen depression, this time also depression, next time also depression. So any two episodes they constitute the bipolar disorder. Okay. So this is what it is. Any two means two episodes of mania or two episodes of depression or one episode of mania and one episode of depression. They qualify for the classification of the person under the bipolar disorder. Okay. Or only one depression means that is just a depression. Only one mania means mania. Okay. Neurosis. What is neurosis? Neurosis is relatively less serious condition. So there will be ability to comprehend reality. Okay. So it is not lost. That means what is happening around, what is happening, what he is doing, the person generally has an insight. But compare this to the psychosis groups. There it is lost. The insight is lost. So next is depending on the predominant feature, neurosis can be, we said that we have mentioned so many types. So we'll just browse them briefly about one by one. Anxiety. Anxiety is a type of neurosis wherein an unpleasant emotional state associated with uneasiness, worry, tension, and concern for the future can occur. Phobic states, fear of the unknown or of some of these specific objects and persons or situations. Phobia means fear. So fear, there can be fear due to some objects or person or situation. Obsessive compulsive disorder is a neurosis. It's a very well established condition psychiatrically. So it's a limited abnormality of thought or behavior. That means it is not a major condition. It's a kind of a limited abnormality of thought or behavior. Here what happens, recurrent intrusive thoughts or ritual like behavior, which the patient realize is abnormal or stupid, but it is not able to overcome even on voluntary effort. That means going and checking whether the door is locked again and again. Okay. What happens normally? People will check once, at the most twice. But these people they go on checking whether the door is locked, locked or unlocked, kind of a thing. Or they go and wash their hands repeatedly. Whatever they do, they go and wash. They know, they understand that it is an abnormal behavior, but they won't be able to overcome it voluntarily. Okay, they won't be able to stop it, and that is disturbing to them. All these conditions if they are there, then they call it as obsessive compulsive disorder. Okay, so it should be disturbing to them, and it should be a kind of a ritual like a behavior, that is called as obsessive compulsive disorder. The obsessions generate considerable anxiety and distress. It is causing a kind of a lot of disturbances to them. Next is reactive depression. Reactive depression is due to physical illness, loss, blow to self-esteem, or bereavement. Means somebody close in the family have died, but is excessive or disproportionate. That means this reaction, that is a reaction to some loss. Okay, some kind of a loss, either monetary loss, or someone has had a severe quarrel with them and then put them down very severely, or some death itself in the family. So they are reacting to that, all those losses. So that reaction is very severe, disproportionate, it's excessive, it is causing trouble. That is reactive depression. Trouble in the form of unable to sleep, in lack of interest in the food, all those things. Post-traumatic stress disorder. This is another well-known condition, neurosis. So symptoms following distressing experiences. So post-traumatic, it should be traumatic to them, such as war, riots, or earthquake. So heavy traumatic experiences to them, it causes this kind of a problem. Hysterical, dramatic symptoms resembling serious physical illness but situational and always in the presence of others. The patient does not feel, he is not acting, but actually undergoes the symptoms. That means there is a serious physical illness kind of a situation. Suppose there is a, he may wince with the pain or like a abdominal pain, which is similar to the appendicitis pain. So he may or she may wince with such a severe pain, but it is very situational in the sense that if nobody is there, nobody is watching, the person will not complain of any abdominal pain. The moment someone enters the room, this person starts the pain kind of a symptom, and he is always presence of the others. Okay, so in the presence of the others, it starts, but the point is, it's he is not or she is not acting. If the people are complaining of pain in the presence of others, we think that it is acting, but it is not acting. Okay, the patient does not feel, but actually undergoes the symptoms. All these kind of things are hysterical. That is a kind of neurosis. Now, pathophysiology and treatment. What exactly is wrong when in case of psychiatric conditions in the brain? Why do they behave like that? The pathology of mental illness is not clear. Okay, so we don't know exactly which part of the brain is abnormal, either organically or functionally. We don't know. That's the first sentence which you should never forget it. Okay, the pathophysiology of mental illness is not clear. Next comes some of the ideas are, okay, due to certain experiments, they have seen that there is some ideas. The ideas are dopaminergic overactivity in the limbic system is the cause for mania and schizophrenia. So they have seen that certain experiments, certain patient records, certain cross-section, examinations, they have seen that dopamine is excess in the limbic system. Okay, limbic system is the one which controls the behavior, basic behavior. So in that system, this if the dopamine is excess, it is seen in mania and schizophrenia. Next is monoamines like the noradrenaline or 5-hydroxytryptamine. Their deficiency may underlie depression. Okay, this is also same only the limbic system only because they are the one which control the basic behavior of the individual. So in those situations also, if the monoaminergics means noradrenaline, 5-hydroxytryptamine, their deficiency is there, then the condition is depression. Treatment is empirical. Okay, so that means it's not specific. We do not know exactly that these are the receptors they are involved and this is how the drug is going to act. We still now have not established the exact structure activity relationship. Say, for example, in beta 1 agonists, we say that they bind to the heart beta receptors and increase the rate and force of contraction. Beta 2 agonists, they bind to the respiratory muscles and then they dilate the bronchi and all. So we have the exact structure activity relationship. Those kind of data is not there in the psychiatric. So treatment is empirical, symptom oriented and not disease specific. Okay, so it is not like for hallucination, for psychosis we have to give this drug, for neurosis we have to give this drug. It's not like that. Symptoms, what are the symptoms? Is it troublesome phobias, then you go these kind of things. Is it kind of altered structure and thought and behavior, you go and give the these kind set of the drugs. It is like that. So treatment is basically based on the symptoms and not the entire disease per se. However, treatment is highly effective in some situations. Even though it is being given symptomatically given treatment is also sometimes very highly effective. But anyway, you are going to start your position as pathophysiology of mental illness is not clear. Okay. So psychotropic drugs. So all the drugs that are effective in all the mental illnesses have been divided into these subtopics. So antipsychotics, useful in all types of functional psychosis. So only psychosis kind of even though we say that it is symptom oriented and not disease oriented, this kind of a classification gives some rough grouping. Okay, so that's why this is also practiced. Useful in all types of functional psychosis. Antimaniac used to control mania and break the cycle affective disorders. Antidepressants used for minor and major depressive illnesses, phobic states, and OCD. Anti-anxiety used for anxiety and psychomimetic, rarely used therapeutically, produces psychosis and used as abusive drugs. Okay, so that is a grouping. And then we come to today's class, that is the actual psychotics, antipsychotics. So against psychosis, the drugs acting against the psychosis, we come to that portion which we have to focus today. Okay, so these are the drugs which are the classification, which are used in the classification of the antipsychotics. The drugs may be phenothiazines, butyrofenones, ioxanthines, and other heterocyclics or atypical antipsychotics. The phenothiazines can further, again based on the structure, they are classified as aliphatic side chain, piperidine side chain, and piperazine side chain. Aliphatic side chain consists of chlorpromazine, triflupromazine, and a piperidine side chain includes a thioridazine. Piperazine side chain includes trifluprozine and fluphenazine. Butyrophenones are haloperidol. Haloperidol is a very important drug, very widely used. So just note this drug in your mind. Haloperidol, flupheridol, droperidol, penfluridol, and thioxanthines, thiothixine, flupentixol. You have to write the names of these drugs and practice. Okay, just if you just read, it won't work out. Other heterocyclics are pimozide and loxapine, and antipsychotic drugs include clozapine, olanzapine, risperidone, quetiapine, and aripiprazole. So these are all the drugs, the classifications. This is the focus of today's class. These drugs are the focus of today's class. How the drugs act, what are their adverse effects, pharmacokinetics, let us see. So one thing, the mechanism of action of these drugs, all the drugs, whatever we have just told, that is these drugs, you need to understand that the all antipsychotics except clozapine, like atypical ones, have potent dopamine D2 receptor blocking activity. So these are the antipsychotic drugs, the dark blue. So they block the binding of the dopamine. Dopamine has to come and bind to its receptor. So they just block that and they bind themselves and they cause reduced secondary receptor mechanisms. So whatever the secondary refractory mechanisms, receptor mechanisms were there, they are all just blocked. Okay. So antipsychotic drugs bind this. This is the main action of all the antipsychotic drugs. Antipsychotic potency has shown good correlation with their capacity to bind the D2 receptor. That means those drugs which bind with more number of the receptors of the D2 receptors, they have been shown to be highly protective. Okay. Phenothiazines and thioxanthines also block D1, D3, D4 receptors, but there is no correlation of such blockade with their antipsychotic potency. Some drugs like the phenothiazines and thioxanthines, which also block to dopamine other receptors, D1, 3, 4, there is no such correlation as these kind of things. If they bind excessively, there is a excessive action. That kind of a correlation is not there with regard to few drugs. Limbic system and mesocortical areas are probable sites of action. Limbic system is the one where the cause for the psychosis is there due to excessive dopamine. So there only these kind of drugs they act, and mesocortical is midbrain. So limbic system and midbrain binding of these anti-dopaminergic drugs is the cause for the antipsychotic effect. A dopamine theory of schizophrenia has been proposed, highlighting the dopamine overactivity in limbic area as the cause for the psychosis. So they have seen how the drugs act over a period of time and how the receptor activity, structure activity relationship, and they have come to a conclusion saying that in schizophrenia, the dopamine overactivity will be there, and hence blockade of this dopamine overactivity is produced to have antipsychotic effect, which is the excess time, the excess dopamine is the cause for psychosis, and binding up to those receptors and shunting out the dopamine, that is the main cause for the antipsychotic activity. So binding it happens at the where the behavior of the brain is controlled, that is the limbic system and midbrain. Parkinsonian adverse effect due to blockade of dopamine activity in the basal ganglia. It is supposed to bind only in the limbic system, but in practice it doesn't happen. The anti-dopaminergic drugs given, they go and bind to the basal ganglia also. So when they bind to the basal ganglia also, in the basal ganglia, if there is any abnormality, particularly dopamine deficiency and cholinergic excess, this Parkinsonism symptoms manifest. So all the antipsychotics, when given to certain extent, when they cross the dose, they cause the Parkinsonian effects in the form of rigidity, salorrhea, stupid gait, tremors, mm, all those things. So Parkinsonism versus psychosis. You need to keep in mind one balances the other. If you try to balance one, the other goes off balance. If you try to balance the other, this one goes off balance. So Parkinsonism versus or face to face the psychosis. These things you need to keep in mind. These are very important hallmarks. Adverse effect, so due to blockade dopamine activity in the basal ganglia. 5-hydroxytryptamine and glutamate also play a major role in the pathogenesis of psychosis, and atypical antipsychotics act by weak D2 blocking action and significant 5-HT2 and alpha 1 blocking action. So now let us come to our antipsychotic group of drugs. In that, let us study chlorpromazine as a prototype. Okay, so let us study it as a single drug, as a prototype, how it exactly manifests, acts in the CNS, and all other antipsychotics, they act in a similar way of this chlorpromazine. So by studying this, this will be helpful. So CNS, in the normal individual, it produces indifference to surroundings, psychomotor slowing, paucity of thoughts, emotional quietening. It induces a tendency to sleep from which individual is easily arousable. So a kind of a tendency to sleep from which the individual is easily arousable. Spontaneous movements are minimized. All this has been referred to as neuroleptic syndrome. So this is still we are talking about in the normal individuals. Neuroleptic syndrome. Typical antipsychotics have potent dopamine D2 receptor blocking property. They produce extrapyramidal motor side effects. Neuroleptic drugs. So when they produce extrapyramidal motor side effects, it is called as neuroleptic drugs. And these effects are perceived as neutral or unpleasant by the most. Now let us study their action in the psychotic individuals. That's where we use. We don't use it in the normal individuals, but let us study their action in the psychotic individuals. In psychotic individuals, it reduces irrational behavior, agitation, aggressiveness, and controls psychotic symptoms. This is quite frank actually. The individual becomes timid and then rubbish talks, behaviors, claiming that he is supreme. So all those things, kind of things, they come down. Okay. So reduces the irrational behavior. That is the irrational behavior reduction activity. Agitation, aggressiveness is also reduced, saying that picking up, being irritable, picking up fights, okay, claiming that he's supreme. So all these things, behaviors, they come down and controls the psychotic symptomatology. Disturbed thought and behavior are gradually normalized. So a little bit time taking is thought processes. So inside that thought process, whatever occurs, thought process, behavior are gradually normalized. Anxiety is relieved. Hyperactivity, hallucinations, and delusions are suppressed. Okay, so anxiety is relieved. The other part, even though anxiety is a neurosis, there also it acts. So it's a symptom-based action. So there also it acts and causes the relief of the anxiety, hyperactivity, hallucinations, and delusions. They are also relieved. Adverse effects, chlorpromazine lowers seizure threshold. This is one important adverse effect. All the psychosis is being reduced, that is fine, that's a great news. But the point is, chlorpromazine is lowers the seizure threshold. So it precipitates the seizures. The person who is susceptible for seizure, he just throws away a lot of seizures. Higher doses knock off temperature control. So when you give higher doses of the chlorpromazine, they knock off the temperature control. Acting on the autonomic nervous system. Acting on the autonomic nervous system, antipsychotics. See, all of you, please write your names and roll numbers for attendance. I think just yesterday's class or day before yesterday's class, many people attendance was 65, but all you had marked were only 45 people have written their names and roll numbers. So for whom shall I give the attendance? Okay, that becomes a question for me. Don't do that. Please write now again. I mean, if you have written once, that is fine. That's enough. No need to write twice. But those who have joined late, please write your names and roll numbers for the attendance sake in the chat window. And in 2-3 minutes, we are going to reconnect again. So let us reconnect and let us finish the topic. Okay. Antipsychotics have varying degrees of alpha-adrenergic blocking activity. Chlorpromazine is equal to, means the chlorpromazine and triflupromazine and thioridazine, they have more of such activity compared to clozapine. That means alpha-adrenergic blocking activity. So these three drugs, they are more potent at the alpha-adrenergic blocking activity than clozapine. And clozapine is stronger than fluphenazine. Fluphenazine is stronger than haloperidol, and that is stronger than triflupromazine. That is stronger than pimoside. So like this, a series of drugs who have varying strength in their action at the alpha 1 adrenergic activity. That is, more potent compounds have lesser alpha blocking activity. More potent in the sense at the dopamine level. At the dopamine level, if they are very strong, at the alpha blocking activity, they are little weak. That is what is the thing. Anticholinergic activity of antipsychotics is weak. So even though they are dopaminergic the drugs, they mildly have a anticholinergic activity. The anticholinergic activity of psychotics is weak. Thioridazine, chlorpromazine, triflupromazine, and triflupirazine. So these are all their series with regard to anticholinergic activity. Phenothiazines have weak H1 antihistaminic and anti-5-HT actions also. So these are the many of the antipsychotic drugs which, in addition to their primary antipsychosis or antineurotic activity, they have varying degrees of uh, you know uh, noradrenergic or the anticholinergic or the alpha adrenergic or anticholinergic activity. So that is something which you need to keep in mind. All of the antipsychotic drugs or psychotropic drugs, they have additional alpha adrenergic blocking, anticholinergic blocking, and then antihistaminic blocking activity. And hence their adverse effects occur in line with those actions. Local anesthetic activity. Chlorpromazine is as potent as procaine